Okay, welcome back everybody. Um, so we're in Module 5, and the topics that we're talking about in Module 5 are the chronic conditions, specifically of depression, irritable bowel, and obesity. Why did I pick those topics? Good question. For several reasons, and that's really what this video is about. Rather than giving you, slide by slide on teaching, I want you to read that part and search for information, get that information on your own. The purpose of this video is not to teach you necessarily about those conditions, but to give you an idea of why I think it's important, especially in the context of lifestyle medicine. So when we set out to look at what conditions we were going to cover for this lifestyle medicine program, the chronic conditions. And again, as I'd mentioned in the introduction, these chronic conditions will then carry over to specifically to the other courses that you'll take on nutrition and exercise. So why did we pick these ones out of all of the ones? Well, we first did a search on what was most prevalent for chronic conditions. So what do we all see, regardless of what setting you work in? What do we experience? I mean, we can just say this, not even as healthcare providers or health and wellness specialists, but what we see in our own lives as Americans. And that's where we started. So, of course, cardiovascular disease is a big issue there. So we have several components related to cardiovascular disease. But we also wanted to touch on some of the other things that we see a lot of that at least in my opinion, are largely under-addressed. Depression being one of them. It's a topic that has gained a lot of momentum, fortunately, in the last decade or so, but I think still largely underrepresented relative to other chronic conditions. We know that the prevalence is very high for depression, and it's something that we all should be cognizant of when we're working with other people. Because of the prevalence. But not just that, there's some great literature to support the use of healthy lifestyle strategies, behaviors to help manage depression. And again, this is so individual to each person on how well it works, but we have some great evidence to show that it helps to manage depression and the symptoms associated with depression. I see it in my personal practice working with folks, but and then of course I read it also, and it makes a big difference when you can balance overall healthy lifestyle habits for someone who has depression, or even for people who are maybe even preventing depression. We know that's we can do some good work that way with healthy lifestyle behaviors. So mental health, huge issue overall, largely unaddressed. Still has a significant stigma associated with it in the U.S. and that it's not thought of in the same way that, say, heart disease or so is thought of. So I thought that was important to include. Irritable bowel. Why that? It seems like an outlier for all of these things. GI issues are more prevalent also than what we know. I think they're largely underreported. And that lifestyle can help with these things. But it seems like, especially when you talk about food and our food sources, food supply, and why are we having more GI issues now than we were a decade ago or 2 decades ago? And it's really easy to see this. Okay, so if you watch TV, look at the commercials. How many commercials do you see that are somehow related to GI conditions? And so I put irritable bowel because it kind of is a catch-all perhaps for some of the things that we can't quite diagnose related to GI issues, but there are other maybe more specific ones that we could get into, and again we have to narrow it a bit for the course, but GI in general, huge topic for health and wellness. And some people sometimes joke about the GI being the second brain because it does control, unfortunately, a lot of our life if it's not working the way it should. So that I thought was important to address, and when you get to the nutrition for chronic disease, that will be addressed more in detail there, and I think that's a great spot on topic for healthy lifestyle behaviors. So then, of course, you can't talk about chronic conditions, lifestyle related, if you don't talk about obesity, right? Because of the just the sheer magnitude of the issue. And, is it a byproduct of all the other unhealthy behaviors, or is it something in and of itself that's going on? Could be debatable, but we do know that lifestyle definitely helps prevent, treat, reverse obesity, and that obesity is related to GI issues, it's related to depression issues and other mental health, it's related to cardiovascular issues, related to cancer. Overall healthcare expenditures are higher, nearly everything is higher because weight is becoming an issue. Not becoming is an issue. So we had to put that course in there, and we didn't want to certainly leave that important topic out. So again, I'm not lecturing on prevalence and pathophysiology. I want you to read that. On that point, the references that I gave for you to read on these really cover an overview. There's so much other information about all of these things related to lifestyle. So I encourage you to explore more resources than what are required of you to read here if you're so interested in one of these individual topics. There's a lot to read in all of them, to be fair. So anyway, so enjoy again the readings. Enjoy the assignment for this, the teaching video. Pick one of these, maybe the one that you want to learn more about. Maybe it's one that you're most familiar with. Maybe it's something that you've done before. You're going to do it that way. Regardless, have fun with that assignment and with critiquing each other and giving positive feedback to your colleagues on how their teaching is too. Again, if you have any questions, let me know. Happy to help. Thanks.